Hi everyone. I'm Molly Jane from the acjr nonprofit. And today for our webinar, we're going to be talking with Matt Aaron of Cielo Finance about how to leverage on-chain tracking for reporters. So if you're watching this live, feel free to ask questions. If you're watching this as a recording later, you can, join us on Telegram or Twitter, tweet at Matt, and hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions and help you come up with better ways to do on-chain tracking for your journalistic endeavors. Yep.
Great.
Okay, Matt, go ahead.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I want to make this a very interactive webinar. I'm going to show you a couple stories that we helped contribute to. One for Axios, and then one for the Celsius saga, and then show you how DL News, DeFi Llama uses Cielo right now, or just like a kind of high level. I can't give specifics just because of, just because of that's what they asked for. And then I kind of want to open it up and just answer your questions. I mean, huge disclaimer, I'm not a journalist. So obviously there's a lot of decisions that you would obviously make in terms of when you're attributing to a wallet and the source and, important words like alleged, and also deciding what to cover. But I do think using your skills and understanding, what your editors want to see, I think this can add an interesting dynamic. So I do hope you come away with this, tracking some wallets, even subscribing to some lists that I've created today. A little bit about Cielo. We're all about the individual versus the aggregate. So, storytelling, right? It's if you go to a lot of threads on Twitter for crypto or articles, the ones that get the most engagement tend to be about the individuals. And so we think of Cielo as capturing all of the on-chain activity through the lens of the participants, the innate human curiosity. What are other people doing? And I'll obviously show the app and how that relates to what we're doing today. So I'm going to go into the first article. Share my screen. I apologize. I got so many things open all over the place, but I'll try to go to, all right. So the first article you should be able to see here is an article by Brady Dale. And, you see right here, it says $181 million Ether bet gone bad. And this became popular in the crypto zeitgeist. I can't believe it was over a year ago. I was going to say 6 months ago. It was over a year ago when there was a big dip. And so what's the story? The Onchain is this very famous and wealthy Chinese billionaire entrepreneur. And he had been putting money casually, not like a professional trader. We're not talking like Amber Group or Wintermute. And he had a leverage bet, meaning that he was borrowing against Ether and then buying more Ether on Aave and Compound. And he was starting to get liquidated. And at certain points, he would just wake up at random times and add more funds to the wallet. And so in a channel that we recommend to all journalists that Zoomer and I run, Zoomer is our head of research, called Onchain Intrigue, you can actually see his movements so a lot of these are transfers, or right here, he's receiving money from centralized exchanges. You can see him paying back collateral, right? So, taking a loan here, repaying Tether, the health factor we include there. So the whole idea is if the health factor gets to once you get down closer to 1, that's when you start getting into liquidation range. And so the way the story ended, right, because everyone was following this could be this huge liquidation on chain. The market did rebound, and overall he did okay and ended up sending more money in. So that's just an example of one story that we cover. We actually started this channel called Onchain Intrigue because of Celsius, which is, just out of how many people are here? I'm sure some of you guys, or most of you have probably covered Celsius in some form or another, right, Kyle? Yeah, how could you not, right? And so we started that tracking all of the wallets of Celsius, and that was that's how it was born. And So like right now, where are we with Celsius? Like y'all might be more up to date than me, but we had 0xB1, who was managing one of the Celsius wallets, came into one of our calls, but we have a dashboard here, right? And these are all public dashboards. I'll share the links that you can follow. And you can, okay, there's some, I think I need to admit people. So hold on 1 second. Okay. I'll try to like periodically do it without, yeah, okay. So, okay. So this dashboard shows all of the current Celsius wallets and can be filtered however you like, right? So you can see transfers. You can say, you know what, I just want to see, above $200,000. I'm going to see, or $20,000. I'm going to see large transfer of this. This is all to a market maker. And so by publishing these alerts and tracking this over time, we had a lot of people reaching us out on Twitter, right? So this is Falcon X, which is like a institutional exchange. And throughout this process, we would have people reach out to us on Twitter saying, hey, did you know that I'm like the courthouse in Miami, and it looks like it's been approved that Celsius can sell all of their altcoins into BTC and ETH. Even before that, it was shown that one of their wallets was able to withdraw ETH and do ETH staking. So yeah, so the whole idea is real-time tracking of their activity, and by doing that, we can give you sources for a story or sources to update a story. Now, I need to find this in the channel, but I'm sure you also remember the Euler finance hack. And so the Euler finance hack had a happy ending. We had quite a few ones where like we had a streak where they were paying back the hackers, either full or taking the bounty. An interesting development is they say it's a kid in Argentina who will be prosecuted. And so I think it's just an interesting like human behavior question. If the people that run these hacks and exploits, if they get punished anyway after returning the funds, like what type of incentive does that create, incentives that create for people to return the funds and like get these bounties, even if the team sends messages out to, sends messages out to the team saying that they won't pursue. Obviously, the authorities can make their own decision. We also track to Tornado Cash. So the way I view this is, so I think this is the second Rodeo Finance hack. And like the same day, Platypus Finance got hacked. But why do I show this? It's because if you read a story, there was a DeFi protocol exploit. There's ways to embed, but even just tracking these wallets. If you get an alert that I went to Tornado Cash, I would argue that's like a nice update to add to the story, because at that point, the funds are just not coming back.
Matt, it's Joyce. There's some questions in the chat, and I think Naveen had a really good one there. As far as getting started, how do you label the wallets, and really how do you verify the authenticity of these wallets that we're following?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So there's a couple of things. So when there's hackers, this is really easy because I'm sure you see. I'm going to start sharing links here in the chat. So when it comes to like labeling hackers, it's quite easy because in the transaction details and Etherscan, you can literally see where the funds went. So there's no ambiguity there, right? Let me show you one where there is ambiguity. And this is one that we also tracked in Onchain Intrigue, and I believe we contributed to this story, is a wallet linked to Do Kwon moves $7 million while Crypto King is in jail, right? And so the gist of the story is like the South Korean professor went through this deep analysis, which I won't go into, and they say this is Do Kwon's wallet. It seems likely, but yeah, we don't know 100%, right? And so like what we did is we added this wallet into Onchain Intrigue as Do Kwon alleged, right? And it was quite interesting on. Yes, I think this was on July 3rd. Something happened in the Montenegro jail this day when a lot of funds were moved. So like in terms of us, when we label, we'll just put like alleged or things like that. Other people like Arkham and Anson have their own style. And you can't always be sure. And then a lot of times, for example, like DWF Labs, which is another interesting one that I think is maybe undercovered in journalism, who gets a lot of token unlocks. They have been in like when you buy from Dow Treasury, someone had found their wallets there. So there's a lot of different ways to corroborate wallets. But it's worth noting that it's not always 100%. And so I realized that compared to the Twitter influencer, you have a much you have a much more rigorous process to say who is what. And then also with like a lot of entities and like crypto funds, a lot of times they have to disclose that. So it's a mixed bag. And so, the hack is going to be like 100%. And then other things are going to come from, a lot of like Discord or looking at different types of data and may not be 100%. But when it gets to a certain level, like, we'll assume it a certain way. Again, we're not journalists, right? So we're trying to give as much information as possible via our channel. And then, as you can see here, Michael with Curve, which is a really interesting story. So Michael with Curve, he had talked about some of his transactions, and there's a lot of factors into this story, which we can go into if you'd like. But I think the point here was like this was pretty much consensus among the DeFi Lobster DAO community and coming from Michael himself. Does that answer your question?
Naveen, are you there? Did that answer the question?
Yep, I don't know if you guys can hear me, but yep.
Okay, great. And then can I just share, man, I see if I can find this, but one thing, okay, can I give some unsolicited advice to journalists? So I hope this isn't come across as, where is it? Yeah, so just one thing I would say in terms of finding stories, when you have founders that have a native foreign language that's not, English, sometimes they'll have forums and they'll be a lot more open with, I'll stop sharing for a second, just to get the conversation going. They'll be a lot more open about certain things that are going on. For example, as everyone here familiar with the whole lawsuit of Framework and Verify versus Michael of Curve. The reason I mentioned that is if you follow like the Curve Russian chat, he was talking about that, how a guy from Verify in like Dubai was the one who led the case, and Rebecca Reddy was like the lawyer that was really charging it. But the reason I mentioned this is he started talking about this lawsuit only in like the Curve Russian chat, like 3 or 4 weeks before like the story got like leaked in like the US speaking crypto outlets. So just as a source of edge, perhaps sometimes when you find a founder like Michael, who's originally from Russia or things like that, you may be able to get some edge on stories that way. So I just thought I'd share that because I thought if I was a journalist, I would definitely do that. William, you have a question on BTC. So I can recommend, I'll do this after the call. We're just so focused on EVM chains. We also track NEAR, which is non-EVM, and how much time you spend building. It's a lot. Like Cielo is a team of 9 full-time, 2 part-time, and infra costs. Timur, my co-founder, really understands the scaling big apps, and so we spend about $8,000 or $9,000 a month, but we're built to scale. We have over 35,000 users, and we could 10x our users for about like $3,000 to $4,000 more per month. So we're pretty optimized for it. But yeah, to have real-time alerts across, we're on 18 EVM chains, and the amount of detail we add. So like all those things, if you see something like long and shorts, all that additional detail, it's quite a bit of real-time processing we do. But yeah, I encourage you guys to use just Cielo's bot. I think for what you're doing, it's more than enough to capture anything that you're looking to do. Let's see. Yeah, Grant said he spoke about it. I'm not sure how to, but he's careful. I said, yeah, this is true, but this was way after. That was way after he spoke in the Curve Russian chat. But yeah, 100%. You want to be very careful what you're saying on a court case. Reminds me of the time when PayPal combated fraud because one of the co-founders spoke Russian. Yeah, and then I think, yeah, well, that's a kind of a different different story right there. Okay, I'm making sure I get any other questions. Yeah, so let's maybe talk about like tracking in groups and public lists, and I'll just show you guys how to do this because I think it's relevant. So let's say we're I guess Molly mentioned Blockworks, but there's a lot of like great Decrypt, CoinDesk, and wherever you guys are working. I don't know which publications you're at, but let's say you're working at a publication. Perhaps you could have one person that would, like, I know Andrew. Like, actually, I guess Andrew's now at Blockworks, but like I know he does it. But people that start to learn this skill of finding wallets and adding them, you can add it to a Telegram. I mean, just like Onchain Intrigue is just we're adding the bot to a public group or channel, and so you can think about creating a group for the journalists where maybe one person manages that and they add the wallets that are of interest when it comes to stories. Another thing that may be of interest, I don't know, it's pretty financial heavy, are token unlocks. That's something that we try to make pretty easy at Cielo, but I will say that sometimes it can be pretty tricky in the way they're set up. And then finally, I think one other source that's always in the news is tracking token treasuries. And so how do you find token treasuries? I mean, of course, like Optimism Foundation, and I'd want to say all DeFi projects, but it's like with more than $20 million in it. But a lot of times you have to like dig into their Discord. They don't publish this stuff on their website. So you have to go sometimes DM the founder on Discord. But like tracking these treasury wallets can be quite interesting because sometimes there's a movement from treasury. I think a really famous one was like the Arbitrum one that came out. But many times I've tracked wallets of treasuries where they moved like 5 million USDC, and I said, what's going on? And I guess it was like Arbitrum on a smaller scale. They were like, oh yeah, we have this proposal out to do it's like a 3D NFT project, and the highest level of compensation that's been put on would be like $5 million to like develop this NFT project. And I was like, without addressing what seems to be absurdly above market rate for some type of NFT collection, why did you move the funds before the poll just started and it's not over? And so you can find a lot of yeah. Michael? Oh, sorry. Was that a question or? Yeah. Okay. So I'll keep going. So what were we talking about? Oh yeah. So yeah, it was called the Open DAO. I think they probably fizzled out by now. It's all public, so it's it was. And anyway, so I think there's like unsavory behavior that you can see there. Yeah, that's it's another way to find a source of what is happening. What else? Yeah, I think I'll do a write-up after this because it's not always so easy, but like Gnosis Safe and like with Arkham, there's deployer wallets, and you can. So does everyone here know what a Gnosis Safe is, just to make sure we're on the same page? Okay, so like Gnosis Safe is the biggest TVL in all of DeFi, although people don't talk about it, right? And so you can find creators of Gnosis Safe. So let me show you something that was, man, where did this come from? So give me 1 second, I'm gonna pull this up. No? Okay, so, all right, so let me reshare my screen. So a lot of founders will have public ENSs, and so I'm going to pull up. This is the founder 0x Jose has deployed NFT perp, and I'll filter this by there's all sorts of transactions. I'll filter this by swaps, right? And so this was 13 days ago. It's kind of strange for a team treasury to buy out of the blue, like a bunch of ETH like that, and so this was my time. I'm on Mountain Time. It was like 2 p.m. my time. And if you don't know, let me just pull up visually what it is so you can get an idea. So NFT perp, which is currently paused, and we'll get into that, is a way where you can long or short positions of like top blue chip NFTs. You can say, I think Milady or Bored Ape Yacht Club is going to go up or down with leverage. And as you can imagine, it's not the easiest protocol to run. And so I saw, tracking like their team funds, like that was odd, it doesn't happen. And then a buddy of mine asked in the Discord and they brushed it off. But it turned out later, the reason why the last, there's no coincidence that the last alert I got for NFT perp was July 6th. And they also happened on July 6th. But later, maybe 4 hours later, they tweeted that they had to pause the protocol because they had bad debt. And then, so basically everyone that had an open position, so if you were long Milady or short Bored Ape Yacht Club, whatever it is, you would, you would have had, or your position, your profit is essentially lost and going to be maybe paid back in their own token, which is really not ideal for a lot of reasons. And again, NFT perp, I really like what they're doing. It's a hard thing to do. This is, I think we're all responsible for, this type of risk, but the story was there. I guess my point there is like the story was there with this movement right here. And then for traders, they could have, closed their positions out of precautions, because this is just not, and then they followed up with another 205. This is just not something that you see very common in like a DeFi team treasury, especially on the smaller kind of seed round size.
Matt, were you screen sharing? Because we don't see your screen.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me try that one more time. Okay.
Okay.
Take two. Okay. So now can you see, this is NFT perp seed. All right. So this is like their like team wallet. And so these were the buys that I saw that I got alerts for in Telegram, but you also can get alerts in the app, however you get your alerts. And so these were the two buys that I saw. I was like, man, like, yeah, you don't put like over $1 million into ETH randomly like that in two buys. It's just very strange. And so I think maybe another thing is on-chain activity is quite difficult to read. There's always a lot of nuance, but just like anything, learning, I don't know, litigation, coding, whatever it is you start to detect patterns. So the more you do on-chain tracking, the more you get a feel for this, and I think you can get it from on-chain intrigue, the more you'll see, you'll be more likely to detect when something's a little bit weird. And of course, follow your own journalistic process and discovery, et cetera, however that looks for you.
So let me ask a question then here. So you got alerts on these two transactions. So what would you suggest that a reporter do next if they're sitting there and saying, you have a certain amount of time constraints in your job, everybody's stressed. So how would you suggest somebody might move forward when they see this without wasting a whole lot of time, but trying to explore a little more what's going on here?
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question. So so I would say, again, like what I find interesting may not be what your readers or your writers, at your respective publications find interesting. So it all depends, like, is it like, and the open DAO one might be more interesting. Like, why did they move 5 million out? In my opinion, since like you guys are all from like pretty renowned publications, like maybe just like going directly to the founder. By the way, you can always ping me because I'm doing this all day anyway, so I'm happy to at least provide like my own thoughts on it. So definitely ping me. But and this, like, I think going directly to the founder could be interesting, and then maybe seeing if other people start talking about it on Twitter. Like, so what are they called? Peck Shield, right? So there was, let me go into the multi-chain hack. And so I hope that answers your question, Joyce, but I want to go into the multi-chain hack because I think that was a really interesting one. Yeah, there's no shortage of hacks, and there will, unfortunately, will not be. This is not the end of that, right? And so the multi-chain exporter one was really interesting because let me pull this up. Okay, so the multi-chain exporter. Is it? Let me pull this up. I forgot who published it, but it was PeckShield, right? And 7/7/2023. Okay, yeah. So okay, so check this out. So PeckShield did a tweet, and they have those kind of there's. So I put here. So basically, all the funds off Phantom were being bridged like in large amounts, but sometimes there is maintenance, and as you know. DeFi projects notoriously have really poor communication on what seems like would be obvious for like a non-crypto startup. Like if you're going to move like $10 million around, like you should say something. But that has happened in the past with multi-chain. And so PeckShield published one of those, hey, you should probably take a look, right? I'm sure you guys all have seen those tweets, right? By PeckShield. And so whenever you see it, hey, do you want to take a look? You can start tracking that wallet. And we try to add that immediately to it. But at this point, someone had reached out to me and said, hey, and I didn't know, so that's why I put like tracking what PeckShield as in the potential exploit on the multi-chain bridge. But again, we're called on-chain intrigue. It's definitely intriguing at the very least, whether or not it's a hack. And then later it turned out, yeah, it definitely was a hack. And Phantom and is in trouble. And then there was that, I'm sure you all saw that kind of ridiculous multi-chain explanation of what happened, and it just seemed like madness. So yeah, I'd say when those things happen, reach out to PeckShield. It is a story in and of itself. Some weird stuff is happening on multi-chain, and people are not exactly sure what's happening, and getting like a quick, I don't know what you call it, like a quick bite story. It's like a couple hundred words of just like get something out there quickly, and then you can update. At this is stuff you already know, right? But at 11 a.m. Zach XBT tweeted blah blah blah. There's still no response from the multi-chain team. So tracking PeckShield on Twitter, and then let me just show you. So I'm just gonna find a random swap here, right? So we're gonna pretend that okay, so this person just swapped for a bunch of link. And so the reason is because you have to find addresses to track. And there's a lot of ways to do this, right? You can do it within our app, right? And let's just pretend this is the link hacker. Again, this is not a hack. I'm just doing it for example. So you find a wallet, right? You can click add and then do link hacker and save. And it will automatically start sending alerts in real time to your Telegram. We're going to have Discord in like a week and a half, by the way, in case you're more on the Discord side. Or you can just go to, so I'm going to pull up one of my bots, right? And you can just like one click add, just do /add link hacker. So again, this is not the link hacker. I'm just like making this up here, right? And boom. Now you have that wallet to track. So I'm trying to think of journalists thinking fast and wanting to get a story. So just like the /add, one-line ad, which I'll write in the chat inside the EVM tracker bot, which you can activate via our app, I think is quite useful. Let me put that there. Yeah, I'm going to pause there because I know I just shared quite a bit of stuff there. The bot. And check tripwires. Could it be useful to set up custom tripwires notifications so that journalists, analysts get pinged when something specific happens? Okay, so that's an interesting question. Yeah, I think like maybe what I alluded to just when something specific happened is just track and try to get any activity from that wallet. We also track on-chain messages, so we parse that as well. So have you ever seen that? It's like, hey, we're the Euler team, we're the Euler team, and we've contacted law enforcement, but if you return 10%, these on-chain messages, we also decode that, so you don't have to go to Etherscan and decode it yourself. So that's another thing that you'll get, because a lot of times people send out messages. Also be careful, that tends to happen is when there's other people that will sometimes pretend to be like the team. So you have to check and see, usually a team will like maybe corroborate on Twitter, or you might see that they're like, you'll be able to click on their wallet. It might be labeled in Etherscan as like the Euler deployer, meaning like this is the wallet that deployed the smart contracts or DeFi protocol. So sometimes the messages may not be what they appear, because people are, again, trying to scam the scammer, so to speak. Cool. Yeah, and then so Naveen asked, do we share labels across users? So the way let me talk about the way we do things. So I'll share my screen again. This time, actually sharing the screen, right? So here's how it works. So as you can see, I have a bunch of lists here, right? So I don't know if you guys have heard of Ondo Finance. Let me show you this. I think this will be quite interesting for y'all, because I think there's this disconnect, and you have a lot of people talking about the quote unquote institutions. But if you look at block explorers, you know that everyone is a degen. There's everything is the same, in the sense that, here, let me admit, Wendy Wu has just entered the room. So what do I mean by everything is the same? So I made a list called Ondo Finance. And if you're not familiar with Ondo Finance, like if there's anything that was institutional on chain, it's this. It's by an ex-Goldman Sachs employee, created Ondo Finance, and they give you exposure to a BlackRock ETF, right? So like this is the most like institutional you can get on chain. And to mint their ETF, their token that represents ETF, you have to have at least 100,000 USDC. And you have to do like KYC, right? Just to emphasize like how institutional this is. This is, and so like what I did is I just uploaded a list of wallets that are, here we can filter out by like, 20,000, a list of wallets that are, that compose, I think, like 90% of the TVL. And so I had like an epiphany. You can see like what they're doing on, all sorts of chains. But what really stood out to me is that like they're in bed with Richard Hart. Like multiple wallets are like highly active on Pulse chain. And so you have a lot of people that like to, they like to appear, you like to like talk really big about crypto on Twitter and speak to suits on Wall Street, but like they're also using Pulse chain. So like that's the point I want to get across. And I think that's a big, I think that's a big deal that you can find on chain, and only because when you track one wallet, like on multi-chain explorers like Cielo and others, you're able to see their activity everywhere. And so that's based on the idea that like if I'm tracking Molly Jane Zuckerman on Optimism, I probably want to see what she's doing on ZK Sync and Arbitrum as well, right? Like it's rare that you just want to see what one person or entity is doing on one chain. You want to see what they're doing on all the chains in one place. So where does that come to labeling, right? So of course we label a lot of smart contracts, but that Ondo Finance is a list that I created, and I chose to make that public. So the labels that I added are now public, but if I turn it off, then it's just private to me and not shared with anyone. So that's like a kind of long answer to your question there. Everyone is a degen should be on your merch. Yeah, and I actually sent it to Adam of that report by RWA.xyz was incredible. Like, because I don't have a like a TradFi background, but explaining exactly like all of the oh man, yeah, Naveen, I'm glad you recommended that. Like that report, if you go into like how Ondo Finance works, and it's just like the Coinbase custody, and again, things that are not necessarily in my in my world. they did an incredible job. Like I was blown away by that, and it really helped me understand a little bit more on the off-chain mechanics. So yeah, definitely check that thing out. Yeah, what else? So so Naveen, is that clear in terms of like on the privacy side, how we look at that?
Yep. I was just, stirring some nonsense because of the outcome stuff. But yep, got it.
Yeah, I know, and it's interesting, right? Like the it's I mean, it's quite the story. And like as soon as Arkham came out with that, like we had a lot of people like reach out to us about it, and of course are like, well, you guys got to do a token, et cetera, et cetera. But it is interesting. Like I mean, it's kind of, I mean, I am, in terms of like Arkham, like I haven't like fully looked into it. Someone made a dashboard as well of like, let me show you this relevant to that. So someone made a dashboard, and this is app.cielo.finance.export. You can find wallets created by others. You can load them as standalone dashboards and just look at it, or you can follow them and set up alerts and add them to your Cielo. But someone made a list of like the top like Arkham, or basically the initial wallets that had Arkham when the token was created, just to see their movements. And so like I haven't seen too much yet. I know that like I think the founder has like 11% of the supply. Yeah, it is interesting just to see like the movement sometimes. And like, I mean, I think like a lot of things in journalism, there may not always be a story. I've also tracked their treasury, and I found here, let me show my test channel. Like I saw, where is it? Like I saw an Arkham transfer yesterday to like a safe created that happened to be very close to $5 million, but it was like a strange amount that was created by one of the members of the team. Let me just show you guys, like, again, this is, I don't want to be sensational. This is not a story. Maybe it is, probably not, but like my brain's just always thinking this way, right? Like, what's going on, right? Just like the discovery process, right? And so they sent it to this Gnosis safe. And so if I pull up their wallet here on Etherscan, how do I know it's a safe? You can see in here, it will say like Gnosis safe proxy in the contract name, but the contract creator, you can, it was created here. You click here. Okay, it was created 1 day and 2 hours ago by this person, and they have an ENS. And the ENS is Henry Fisher, who I know is part of the Arkham team. I know I did that pretty quickly, but like this is just like the way the way we explore. And so now it's like, okay, I'm gonna henryperson.eth to Henry Fisher. This is like the way we explore things. One quick thing though on privacy, we do label ENSs and OpenSea names. So yes, we will, like if it's a public ENS. And so, I mean, if you put like mollyjane.eth, like we automatically pick up ENS labels. So like that is going to be public, or like your OpenSea name. And then Naveen said there's a 21 shares doing dashboard for Arkham airdrop for this one to do some envelope math. Cool. Naveen, what I'm curious, what do you do in on-chain research?
I waste my time. So we're building a DeFi risk analysis project. So spoke to Joyce and ACR and the acjr crew about this a few months back. But again, love the effort that you guys are doing. It's just that the thing that we take is we take a holistic risk approach to all these questions, right? So we'd use somebody like Cielo or Dune or Nansen, whoever it is, to answer these questions much more broadly. But yeah, that's what we do.
That's cool. By the way, anyone can contact me. I love like onboarding people to Cielo or asking these questions, but I'm just sharing my Telegram here. So so please send me a link to what you're working on. I'd love to check it out and see if I can like help you guys in any way. So that's where you can find me most of the time. And of course, I'll also want to start joining the acjr private chat more. I did have a question for you, Molly. Like, I'm thinking about like, it's really powerful, like what ACJR is and can be, at least for my initial take on it. But like, there's a lot more conversation in like the public one and the private. How do you incentivize people to move more into the private group and community?
It's a really good question, and it's something we've been thinking about for a while. I think that one of our issues with ACJR is comms, which is that people join the main chat and they think that means they're in the ACJR. And what a lot of people don't realize, and what everyone on this call can now realize, is for the low price of, I believe, $25 a year, if you're a journalist or a researcher, you actually can become a member of the ACJR. And that gives you access to the private channel. It gives you access to more IRL meetups at conferences, discounts on conference tickets, et cetera, a list of things we're hoping to expand. And so I think that people are just so happy to be in the, 1,000 plus person main group that it's hard for them to imagine like why they should pay, or like they might not even know they should pay. It's definitely tricky. We're definitely open to hearing from people here and also in the chat what they would want to get out of membership that they aren't getting just from, the free and access part. I'll stop rambling, but the last thing I will say is that the members only chat does have more of a ratio of crypto journalists and researchers as opposed to PR and marketing. So it might be like that exclusivity that's worth paying for. Anyway, that's my answer.
Yeah, cool. And have you ever considered adding Telegram topics to that chat?
Joyce and I have played around with different things, but I think both of us are not that good at like learning all that Telegram can do. And also some things were in beta that you needed a certain number of people to play with. But if you have advice for us on how to make the chat more focused, like please DM me about that.
I wouldn't go as far as saying advice, but like we actually spun out, Cielo spun out of Uniwhales, which is actually the longest running token gated community, and we moved to topics, and it was a bit rocky at first, but it's been really good. So I think like, for example, like here's something that I think I could like incentivize a lot of people to join is like, or someone like Naveen and I, like, we're not journalists, right? But maybe more on the research side. Like it would be cool if there was like a topic where we could just share like on-chain like research stuff, but not necessarily clutter like in the main chat, because it's like, I don't know, Naveen and I going back and forth about like data providers may not really be interesting to the rest of it. But I think there's a way to do it, and then and incentivize people to join. It's like, hey, you can do a little bit more like shilling or certain things by like just paying that $25 a year thing. Anyway, so I'll send you my like random feedback whether or not it's worth following or not after the call, because I'm excited to be part of it, and I like the idea of like an accessible annual membership fee. So I plan on like doing my best to be a member there.
Yeah, we would appreciate that. We did have a disastrous move to Discord last year that we then canceled. So anyway.
Yeah, and we're also finding we're getting a lot of, the organization's only, 3 years old, Molly, I think. And what we're finding, one is what our members want and need from ACJR. And the public chat is very valuable. And that's basically a service that we provide to the community. And, and you hope people will migrate over to participate in the members only, but it's, part of our mission is to serve this audience. And so the public chat is a public service, if you will. But we're also getting so many requests for our members to speak at conferences around the world. In fact, Matt, I've got my eye on you for an upcoming conference that I've been asked. Do we have members who could talk about this? So we're connecting a lot of our members for potential speaking opportunities and to have a presence at some of these conferences. So that's been a big part of what we've been working on lately too. So people are coming to us now and they're asking for experts, and we're hoping to move some of our people into those roles at these conferences. So that's all I'm going to say, but I'll send it back to you.
No, I mean, that's amazing. I think it's just like Joyce, it's just getting the word out about this type of stuff. And you guys are all gifted writers and communicators. So I'm sure it's just only a matter of time. And like, I think like a lot of these like organizations, there's like that compound effect, like you hit 3 years, then you hit 5 years, and then you hit 10 years, and it just like becomes this force. So that's super cool. So I do have a couple questions maybe for you guys. Like, so I think someone like, it seems like there's consensus in ACJR, like the public chat, that like journalists are getting a lot of pitches. What percentage of those are coming from like professional crypto PR agencies versus like, I don't know, project founders themselves?
I'll answer from Blockworks, even though the caveat I'll say is I'm on the opinion desk, so I don't actually evaluate the news pitches. I just have access to the news inbox. It's a huge number of PR agencies. It's very rare for a founder to pitch us directly, which is fascinating. And I will say that Blockworks also has learned to be a bit wary of PR pitches, just like Cointelegraph when I was there so many years ago, because the PR pitch obviously is like whitewashing for good or for bad what is going on. And I think sometimes the media's pitches are from reporters that are sort of tooling around in those like localized Telegram groups, Discord channels, et cetera, especially in DeFi. Yeah, that's my answer.
I gotcha. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, there's like, I've spoken to a lot of like really solid crypto reporters, like I think like Brady Dale and like Matt of Decrypt come to mind. And I know there's like many others that I just haven't had the chance to speak with, but I think like a couple of times that like without just speaking vaguely, like a couple of times like we've answered like journalist questions for like a long time, like really like 45-minute calls, and the article never came out. And so I don't think it was necessarily like the journalist interviewer's call, maybe the editor's call, but sometimes it's like, I know sometimes like on-chain researchers are hesitant to speak just because like, it's not always like a guarantee that there's an article, and then some of them, like, they won't even like necessarily give you a mention. So it's like, yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic, but like, yeah, I do wonder about how to like, you know, to your response, how to like filter out more of the PR side.
Yeah, I mean, to that, I would just say that if you're speaking to a journalist, just make sure you have a really clear understanding. If you're speaking on background, if you're speaking like for quotation, sometimes the journalist might want to talk to you and not use anything right now, but just as sort of keeping you in mind for the future as the source for something. And that if that's not communicated to you, it can leave you feeling, you know, kind of silly. While in the journalist's mind, they're like, wow, we just made this amazing connection that we're going to use for the future. So a lot of things that go on in journalists' minds are not always like very, very clearly communicated. So I would just say that make sure everyone's expectations are met. And then also for like the non-journalism side, even though like, yes, 45 minutes of your time, like maybe you don't want to give someone that if there's no guarantee of getting your name in print, because that is sort of the goal for everyone on both sides of the thing. You also should think about relations with journalists like as a long-term investment, you know, especially if you work where you do in an area that will be really helpful for people working the DeFi beat. You know, I can't stress enough how difficult it is for journalists to cover DeFi. And if you can sort of develop relationships where you're able to actually help DeFi reporters, then, you know, that's how you become the brand. You know, that's why CoinGecko is what everyone quotes in all DeFi articles, and CoinMarketCap is never quoted in any DeFi articles because CoinMarketCap forgot about DEXs and then DEXs blew up, you know? So anyway, my 2 cents.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, so that's on me. I'll tell like another person on our team that sometimes speaks out to the media. It's just like, we just to be clear about the expectations, you know, like from both sides. I think that's a good piece of advice, Molly. And then the coverage of DeFi is so hard, and also like how fast the stories update and evolve, because sometimes it might be like a response in the Discord is like a really, really big deal from the team that can change the whole story, right? And I sometimes see that, I don't know if this is covered, but do you guys remember the whole like Paraspace thing? I'm going to admit I couldn't, so, you know, full disclosure, I was staking, because Paraspace blew up in the NFT lending. And let me just like show you like real quick, like NFT, like, well, I guess Blur's kind of taken it over, but like, so we label all of the NFT lending protocols because we saw this space from a long way away, and being like pretty popular, right? Because there's always going to be more financial relations. The reason I bring this up is that like all of a sudden, like there's like this fight between like the team like split in two, and so there was like, well, wait a minute, like one of the contracts might like be in jeopardy, but there was just so much back and forth on Twitter from different team members, and I didn't know which side to believe. And I had a relationship, as in like a working relationship, with someone who's actually on their team, and they ended up leaving after this. But I didn't really like, I didn't like dig into it while it was happening. I was just like, I'm gonna like, you know, remove my NFT that I'm staking, revoke the approval, and just like, you know, wait till this like whole thing plays out. But like putting myself in the shoes of a journalist, it's a really interesting, intriguing story. And there's like so much mystery that I think a great investigative journalist could like get to the bottom of. But at the same time, it takes a lot of like glucose, a lot of like mental energy to like put something out there. And so I'd understand why like someone would just be like, I'm not going to cover the Paraspace fiasco.
Does anybody have any more questions before we wrap up?
Cool. Well, everyone's really nice to speak with you today. Yeah, I think I shared my Telegram. Did I spell it right? Yeah. And then let me share my Twitter as well. Gotta get better on getting the word out there. Yeah, if you have any questions, well, I guess the obligatory chill, you know, start using Cielo. Let me know how you like it. I'm here to help you get set up. And then there's my Twitter. Make sure to give me a follow. Yeah, I really appreciate everyone taking the time this morning.
And thanks to Matt, and thanks to Molly for always representing ACJR. And if you're not a member of ACJR, we hope that you will join us, because I think it's a great group. As you can tell, it's a great community to be a part of. Thanks to Naveen, who just signed up. Yay, thank you. And you can find us at acjr.network. So thanks again, everyone, and look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great job, Joy.